Hi, this is Umaraj and welcome to Excel functions in less than 15 minutes. Today we are learning two average functions, AverageIF and AverageIFS. The AverageIFS is a newer function available only from Excel 2016 version onwards. The AverageIF function returns the average of cells in a range based on a criteria you provide. And the syntax is average if, range, criteria, and average range. The range is the first argument here is the range for the criteria, and the second argument is the criteria you provide, and you can use all these logical operators for your criteria, and the criteria can be a numeric value, a text string, or a logical expression. It can also have wildcard characters like a question mark or asterisk. And the third argument is the average range. So that is the range for which you are calculating the average based on the criteria. And if the third argument, the average range, is not supplied, the first range is used for calculating the average. So now we will look at some examples. We have a product table here, the product names and the quarterly sales for all the 4 quarters, Q1, Q2, Q3 and Q4. And in our first example, we want to find the average of Q4 sales based on some product. And here for an example, we are using the product as Paseo. So we will see how we will do that. Equal to average if, and the range is your product range because that is first range is a range for the criteria. So it is B11 all the way to B17, comma, and our criteria is a name Paseo in double quotes because it's a string, comma, and the average range we want to find the average sales of the Q4 sales. So our range is a Q4 sales which is F11 all the way to F17. Enter, and we find that this is the average for Paseo for the quarter 4 sales. So we can just double check this because the Paseo are the last two products here. So when we select the last two values of the Q4 sale, and when you look at the status bar, you will see that this is matching, it's correct. The next example is we are going to find the average Q2 sale where the product name starts with MON. So we had to use a wildcard here. So equal to, again, average if, and the product range is B11 all the way to B17, and here our criteria is we are going to use the wildcard asterisk here. Asterisk will match any sequence of characters after this value, and the wildcard question mark will match just one character. So we are going to use the asterisk here. So MON asterisk, that means any name starts with MON and followed by any number of characters, and we want to find the Q2 sales. So the third argument is D11 all the way to D17, and enter, and we will find that there's only one product here which is Montana, which starts with MON, and when you see Q2 sale, when you select all this, we can double check at the status bar here, you will see that they are matching. And in the third example, we are going to use another data set. We just got the country name, product, units sold, and units returned. And in the first example here, we want to find the average units sold when the units are less than 900. So here, the first argument and the last argument are the same. So we will see how we will do that. Equal to average if. So we want to find if the criteria is less than 900. So the range criteria is D23 all the way to D37, and your criteria is less than in quotes because that's a string, and you will use the ampersand to connect it to the number 900. And again, we don't have a third argument because we are going to use the same range as the average, because we are finding the average of units sold when that unit sold is less than 900. So again the same, so we can just omit that, and it will use the same range for calculating the average, and it returns the value 616.5. And in the next example, we are going to use a not equal to logical expression. You are using this symbol to use not equal to. So we are finding the average units returned, that is this range, when the country is not Mexico. So we will find all the average of units returned for all the other countries other than Mexico. So again, average if your country is B23 all the way to B37, and your criteria is not equal to Mexico, and you are finding the units returned, that is E23 all the way to E37, and enter, and it returns this value. And in the last example for average if, again we are finding the average units returned for a product. So again, average if you want to find the product range, that is C23 all the way to C37, and the criteria is here Montana in quotes, and the value you want to find is the average of units returned. So that is E23 all the way to E37, enter, and it returns this value. Now the AverageIFS function returns the arithmetic mean or average of all the cells that meets this multiple criteria. So the syntax will be AverageIFS, average range, the first argument, that is the range for which we want to calculate the average, unlike the AverageIF function where the average range was the third argument. Here it is the first argument because we can have multiple criteria here. And the second argument is the first criteria range, and the third argument is the first criteria, and so on. You can have up to 127 pairs of criteria range pairs. And the first criteria range and criteria are required, and the rest are optional. Again, we can use a logical operators here for your criteria, and the criteria can be a numerical value, text, or logical expression, and also it can include wildcards, the question mark and the asterisk. And in the first example, we are using the same data set here with country, product, units sold, units returned, and we have one more column which is the dates sold. And in our first example, we want to find the average units sold where the units are less than 900 and the product is Montana. So we will see how we will do that. It's AverageIFS, the units sold, that is where you want to find the average of, so D11 all the way to D25, comma, the first criteria range, it's the same because units sold, D11 all the way to D25, and your criteria is it should be less than 900, in quotes less than, and ampersand and 900, and your second criteria is the product, it's C11 all the way to C25, and your criteria number 2 is Montana, the name of the product, in double quotes. And when you enter, you find that there are 345 units sold on average where the units sold is less than 900 and the product name is Montana. And in the second example, we want to find the average units returned as defective, where the country is not Germany and the date is before a certain date here, which is 110. So we will see how we will do that. Equal to AverageIFS F11, that is what you want to find the average on the units returned. So F11 all the way to F25, and your first criteria is the country, which is not Germany, so your country is B11 all the way to B25, and the criteria number 1 is not Germany, so we use this logical expression not equal to and Germany. And the second criteria is the date, which is in E column, E11 all the way to E25, and the date should be less than 110. So any unit sold before 110/2005, and the countries, all countries other than Germany, we want to find how many units are returned, and we will find that there are 144.2 units on the average are returned when the country is not Germany and the date was before 110. And in our last example, we are going to use 3 conditions. We want to find again the average returned where the product name starts something like MON. So we are going to use the wildcard asterisk here, and the country name, again we are going to use the wildcard question mark here because we don't know the first 3 characters of the country, but the last 3 characters are NCE. And the third condition is the date should be more than 1/8, so after 1/8/2005. So when you look at it, AverageIFS F11 all the way to F25, that is a column for units returned, and the first criteria range is C11 all the way to C25, that is a product range, and your product is MON and asterisk. So any product starts with MON and can followed by a sequence of characters, and the country second range is country range B11 all the way to B25, and the country name should start with something but it should end with NCE. It should have 3 characters before that word, and we know that country is France. And the third condition is E11 all the way to E25 and greater than 1/8, and it returns the value as 67. So here we used 3 conditions. So in this tutorial we looked at both AverageIF and AverageIFS in detail with a few examples, and please subscribe and like the video, and we will see soon with another Excel function. And in the meanwhile, play with Excel and practice, and thank you for watching.